Welcome to Your Number Man, where we share financial strategies, business insights, and inspiring stories to help you navigate a successful business. I am your host, Johan, and my goal is to help you achieve a bigger life in business. Hey everybody, so today we got another great guest in our studio. Well, technically not in the studio, she is on Zoom. So on the other side of the ether, we got Sarah Reimann. Sarah is a strategic business advisor, a professional speaker, and a virtual CFO. She was the founder of a tax accounting practice for 15 years, but today her claim to fame is to help business owners of professional service firms to be profitable, scalable, and saleable. Sarah's focus is to help owners to gain clarity and confidence in their future strategy and finances. Hello, Sarah. Welcome to the Your Number Man podcast all the way from Zoom.
Hi, Johan. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity for coming on today.
When I first met you, you jokingly introduced yourself as a recovering accountant. We both had a bit of a giggle.
Well, I own my tax accounting practice for 15 years, so I'm still recovering from doing all the tax stuff. But when I was in there, I wanted to help my clients in a different way, like in a higher level of financial advice that they needed, rather than just ticking these boxes on tax and GST and filling in forms, all the things you know that your tax accountant does. And to me, I got to the point in my life where I thought, all I'm doing is filling in forms and collecting tax for the tax department. And I just wanted to help businesses on a different level. And that's why I say I'm recovering.
Okay.
So I'm still recovering from my time as a tax accountant, but it's just a joke, really. I learnt a lot of what I know now, I attribute to those years in that industry.
Yes, no, I hear what you say. I mean, I've never really been a tax accountant myself, but yeah, it's nice to take a break from it as well.
Yeah.
So what, in your view, is the main functions of a CFO, and how can a virtual CFO tick most of that boxes?
Yeah, look, the difference in a virtual CFO and what I do now, and perhaps the functions of someone's accountant or their bookkeeper, is that I sort of look beyond just the data entry or the compliance or the tax or the GST or the reconciliations. I look beyond that to sort of a future thinking type model where people need answers. Business owners want answers to questions like, can I afford to hire someone and when can I do that? Can I afford to buy a vehicle or some plant and equipment, and how much is it going to cost and when can I do that? Can I move premises? Can I expand and grow? And all of these things take money, as we know.
Yes.
We all need money cash coming into our business to pay for these things. And generally the accountant or the bookkeeper doesn't work on those sort of questions. They can give them a general idea. But where a CFO comes in is they forecast and budget into the future. So they do scenarios around how much sales or income does this company need for them to expand and grow and hire someone and do all those things that they want to do in their business.
Yes.
So that's where I come in and answer those questions.
And are you sometimes required to manage the team or to manage the internal finance staff as well, or basically just guide them?
Yes. Look, that's another part of my role too, is some of the bigger companies I work with, I actually go in and work with, they might have some in-house accountants or bookkeepers or finance team, and I help them with just the next level of sort of reporting on the forecasting and the cash flow. And because as we know, cash flow is the lifeblood of a business, and if they run out, then they can get into trouble. So I have been a mentor finance teams, get some of their accountants back up to a higher level of reporting and financial acumen if they don't quite have that. Or I work directly with the CEOs to report on, the budgets and the actuals and where the money's actually going.
Yes, that's right. So basically, you're also doing a lot of management accounting functions as you really dig into the costings and the profitability and the break-even analysis and what-if scenarios, as you mentioned as well.
Yes, that's right. Scenarios around what if we do this, what if we do that, even risk management, if we do this, what may happen, what can go wrong, what could go right, all of that stuff.
Great. And strategic business advising, what do you believe are the main criteria to take in mind to draw up a watertight business strategy and align it with your financial strategy?
Yeah, that's a great question, Johan. I actually am going to answer that I actually worked with an organisation a few years ago, and they had a management consultant do a very extensive strategic plan that was 20, 30 pages long because they needed it. But it didn't have a financial element to it, which I found perplexing because you're right. When you ask me that question, how does business strategy align with financial strategy? And the two go hand in hand. So another part of my role as a CFO and a strategic business advisor is to go into companies and actually help them create a business plan or strategy, because many SMEs, and when we talk SME, we're talking about companies that could be anything up to maybe 20 or 30 million and have anything from 1 to 300 or 400 staff. They're still in the small, medium category.
Of course.
But some of them don't have a plan. They don't have a roadmap. They don't really know where they're going or even how they're going to get there. So once we get those things in mind and do some sort of strategic planning day with them, we've got to then go, okay, now where's the money coming from to fund all of those activities? So one without the other is simply really not going to work too well.
So basically what you say, if you don't have a plan, it's like flying an airplane in the dark without any navigation systems, isn't it?
One of the things I like saying is if you don't have a financial or business plan, you're just flying blind.
Yes, that's right. And you know Scott as well. He was on my podcast once and he mentioned in the ancient days there was the Stoic, his name was Seneca. And Seneca mentioned, if you don't know where you're going, no wind is helpful.
Yeah.
You probably heard it from Scott as well. And then you help them gain clarity and confidence in your future strategy with this business plan, because from this business plan, you'll open a path for a budget that's quite reasonable and realistic in terms of the targets that I can meet and the capabilities they have got.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest issues holding companies back in terms of strategy and all these things around planning and forecasting is at the actual implementation of it. So I can go into a company, do a deep dive into their financial health of the business, which is what I do, deep dive into all of their issues and problems and what's going right, what's going wrong, all of that stuff, and come up with action plans. But a lot of companies get stuck at the implementation phase. And this is across the board. If you look at some of the business textbooks and the data, it's about something like 85% of all strategies fail due to the lack of implementation or best practices, because there's either no one leading it, there's no one championing that plan or that strategy. They don't have the time, they don't have the resources. It's a good idea in the first place, but when we get to implementation, we've got to have someone in that seat, whether it's probably not the CEO, they're probably not always the best person to do it, but someone that's going to take control of the plan that's been created and make sure that that gets turned into reality if the business is really committed to doing the things that they say they're going to do in that strategy or that plan. Okay.
So what to take out of that is, first of all, you've got to say what you're going to do, and then you've got to do what you said you're going to do.
Right.
And you're the person, you're the glue that keeps it all together, for that matter.
And that's where I come into more as a coach and a consultant and a mentor to people ongoing, is to keep them a little bit accountable to the plans and the actions that they said they were going to do, and also keep them on top of the finance and the numbers. So a lot of the time, if I'm consulting with an SME, an owner, I'm probably the only person they talk to all month about the numbers and about the finances, about the strategy. They're outside of that, they're just doing the client work or talking to staff or stakeholders. So I'm an important point of contact for them to actually implement those things and see how the business is running.
That makes sense. It's key having that financial person there to bring everything together as well. And following on that question, a lot of business owners make decisions that are reactive instead of proactive. They struggle a lot to get on top of their planning, their finances, their numbers and their cash flow. Have you got a magic formula to help them become more proactive, for that matter?
I'm not sure I've got a magic formula. I think that a lot of business owners do just go week after week. They're just sort of grinding out, doing the work, doing the client work, and they get very, very caught up in the day-to-day stuff. And it's in some ways easier to be reactive because it's whoever screams the loudest or whichever email screams the loudest that they react to. But if we truly want to build a business that perhaps isn't so much 100% reliant on us, that we want to maybe sell in the future, if we've got a succession plan and we want to use it as our retirement fund, and we want one that is systemized and has those processes and procedures in place where, think about McDonald's, it's rinse and repeat, that we can be free of, then we actually have to put in the time and effort to make our day-to-day decisions become more proactive. How do we do that? Well, if we've got a good financial plan, if we've got a good strategic plan,
Yes.
and we're working with someone that keeps us accountable, like a coach or a consultant, then it gives us more of a chance to be successful at being proactive, because then when an opportunity arises, we actually make our decisions based on, okay, does that fit with my plan? Can I afford that? What does my budget say? What does my strategic plan say for the next 1, 2, 3, 5 years? And is it in line with that? And we make our decisions based on those things. And that's probably the magic formula to making these things work for us.
Okay. It's the accountability.
Yeah.
And a bit like you, I call myself an accountant, but obviously, I'm a management accountant or cost accountant, more specific, not a financial one. And I sometimes say to my clients, a tax accountant will help you pay less tax, and my job is to make you pay more tax. And people say, well, what kind of person are you then? And obviously I say, well, we're all about profit. We're going to make sure that you get your sustainable profit. And obviously, if you're going to have more profit, you're going to pay more tax, unfortunately. But you always have more cash that you're going to take out. Now, there are obviously a place for both these kind of accountants. But what do you, and me for that matter, give a different kind of strategic financial advice as opposed to other accountants and bookkeepers?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
My job is to make you pay more. That's funny. I like that, Johan. But it's true, isn't it? Yeah, because a lot of the time, when I was in tax, my clients would come and see me because they wanted to know how they could reduce it. And now I say to people, look, if you're paying tax, it means that you're doing well. And people in business that say, oh, I don't pay tax, well, there's only one or two things going on. They're either rorting the system, or they're not making any money, or they're probably doing both.
Yes.
Because the reality is, in Australia, we're one of the most taxed countries in the world for obvious reasons. But it's not about tax reduction, so to speak, because if we want to increase profits, then we're going to increase taxes. It's about managing the way that we handle the taxes. So, for instance, I'm working with a lady at the moment, and she's got behind in taxes. And so I've said to her this year, she's got like a triple whammy on taxes, unfortunately, because 23 wasn't paid, 24 hadn't been planned for, and now we're into 25 financial year. And so you're going to have to catch up with all of those. And that's just a product of not really planning ahead. But if we do, we're always going to have more money in our pocket, because a tax saving is, don't spend $1 to save 30 or 40 cents, really, isn't it? Because if you want to reduce tax, you've just got to spend more money on new car, a computer, whatever. Yeah. So that's my view on it.
And what you meant by that is cash flow as well. I mean, your job is to help people get a healthy, sustainable cash flow. And if you've got a bad cash flow, my take on it is the cash flow is not a problem. It is the result of something else, such as your gross profit, or you've got too much debt leverage, or poor debtor management. But what are the biggest things that lead to cash flow problems from your point of view?
I really like talking about this subject. It's one of the topics I talk about when I get on stage in front of people or run events, is about how to avoid cash flow crunches. And it's really just a product of something that's gone wrong in the past. So if I give you examples, one of them is debtors. So you've invoiced a whole lot of clients, but you actually haven't got the payment for them, or you haven't chased them up.
Yes.
And that's going to lead to cash flow, because if they're not paying you and you're still paying suppliers, then you're going to come short. Overcommitting on loans. So getting into especially vehicle and plant and equipment loans, where a lot of lenders will just lend without even doing any sort of affordability type scenarios.
Yes.
Business owners can get into debt for cars and equipment that they really can't afford, and find out that the cash flow crunch comes later on in maybe 6 or 12 months' time, and they didn't realise. Also, cash flow crunch is going to come when you don't plan ahead for taxes. So getting into trouble with being a year behind on taxes and things like that. You might have good cash flow in that year, but then the next year it's going to all dry up, because all you're going to be doing is paying the tax department to catch up for the years you haven't paid.
Yes.
Those are the three major areas I see, and they're areas that a lot of business people don't keep their eye on. So when we talk about balance sheet, that's where the health of the business lies.
That's what
in the balance sheet, in the loans, bank account, the debtors. It's not on the profit and loss, is it?
Yes. And so many times, and perhaps you got the same problem as me as well. We try to help a client with their budgets going forward, but obviously when you look at your budgets, you mainly look at your profit and loss. And then you got to incorporate that budget, which is basically done on a profit and loss, with your cash flow. And like you said, your debt leverage, and you've got to obviously take depreciation out of the whole situation, but also bring in your payments that you got and perhaps drawings that the directors might take. That's not always in a profit and loss. In my experience, cash flow is probably one of the biggest problems in small business. And you hear statistics that a lot of businesses are actually profitable on their profit and loss, but they still go broke because of cash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And that's why it's important to have a budget in place that you go, oh, this is how much money I've got that's going to come in and I've got to spend. But you've also got to have a cash flow forecast, which includes all of those other elements of, directors taking money or loan payments or tax and GST and all of that, super and everything like that. And then the second element of that is you actually need to monitor them or review them or get someone like you or I, Johan, to help with that.
Yes, and we love it, don't we? We love to roll up our sleeves and say, okay, let's get to the bottom of this problem. Let's talk about the S word, synergy. Your clients are all leaders and experts. They've done the hard yards, all the training, and they know how to convey a professional image and get the technical jobs done. My understanding is that your job is helping them to be the very best they can possibly be. Do you mind sharing the methods you use to achieve that ultimate synergy?
Yeah, look, most of my clients are in service industries. I mean, I have worked with trades and construction in the past, but in the last few years, I sort of more focus on services. So like IT, marketing, HR, NDIS, accountants, lawyers, physio, allied health, those sort of service sort of practitioners where they've gone to uni, they've done all the training, they're excellent at their job, they're really good with all the technical stuff, but sometimes they struggle in terms of the financial area or just the business, the operational strategy and, how do they become better and grow and those sort of things. So, I mean, the accountability piece is the main thing really, because as you might know, Johan, when you're a solopreneur or a solo person,
solopreneur, I like
we are, or a thought leader or some sort of consultant, sometimes you're not accountable to anyone. Someone once said the best thing about working for yourself is that there's no one telling you what to do. And the worst thing about working for yourself is that there's no one telling you what to do. So I think there's something to be said for having a coach or a consultant or even being in like a mastermind group or like a peer coaching group that can help those really technical people just get new ideas and accountability around what they're doing and where they're going. And I think all of those things are good methods in terms of really hitting those goals and not kind of flying blind and just on your own, to be honest, because they're some of the worst, the walls that you'll hit in terms of achieving success.
Yeah, that's right. And I always say to clients, I wish I had all this information, all these resources to help me when I started a business back in the late 90s. There's so much help out there today, and people, all they got to do is just, it's not going to cost them an arm and a leg. A lot of the stuff is actually free of charge. Just go to a network session and listen to a few talks or whatever. There's so much out there. And it's great, The other S word I like to use is the soundboard. Have a safe place where you can soundboard some ideas or your struggles as well. And that's, like you say, in groups as well. Or get yourself a coach for that matter.
Yeah.
It's great. Anyway, Sarah, it's been great having you on the show today. You've helped me with a lot of the things that I sometimes struggle with. I'm more management accounting as well, but strategy is important. And a lot of business owners should take that to heart. And it's just great for you to take the time and get onto Zoom. And we had a nice little discussion. Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks, Johan. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for listening to the show. I really hope you got some great takeaways from it. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe to the show. It would be great if you can share it. You can also look me up on socials. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And you can also get in touch with me on my website, which is www.yournumberman.com.au. And you can get in touch with me as well. I'll definitely get back to you. See you next time. Cheers.